Everyone, so glad that you are all joining us from wherever you are. We're so glad that you're here. And we wanted to give you guys a behind the scenes look at the King of Kings video that will be premiering later today. We learned a lot in this process and we wanted to share that story with you all. We also know there are a lot of videos like this on YouTube, but the uniqueness of this video is the people that are involved and kind of the reasons why we did it. So on the call, we have like worship leaders from throughout the years at Metro, and we're so grateful that they're all here. We also have people from all over the world here. So first off, from Dallas, we have our own Pastor Reuben from Metro Church. Can you wave? Yeah, yeah. And then we have basically our tech director, Josh Thomas from Dallas also. Also in Dallas, we have Dalton, who also leads worship at our church now. From joining us from Kerala, we have Yohan, who used to lead worship at our church too. And in Delhi right now, but all around India is Abeyson, who used to lead worship at our church and comes back and forth from India. And then we have from Muscat, we have Josh Andrews, who used to lead worship at our church too. So later on, we'll have from Chennai, we'll have Benny joining us too. So as you can tell, we're just kind of calling in from all over. More than doing ministry together, these are brothers that we love, and we're so grateful that we get to be friends more than just doing ministry together. So I'm going to jump in and I'm going to try to be a host for this call, but these guys are probably going to start talking over each other and into each other, and I'm going to see if I can try to bring some clarity in all this. So I'm going to first hand it over to Pastor Reuben, just around like what your heart was and hope behind the project and why we did King of Kings.
Yeah, thanks, Pastor Linson. Well, just to kind of start off, especially during this time, we're trying to find some kind of way to kind of bring everyone together. So especially this year, we try to really challenge ourselves with our production team, with video, audio, everything. So we're like, hey, what's a project that we can do? A desire that I had in my heart were these three desires I had, which was to be inclusive, to bring deeper unity, and to stretch ourselves with creativity. Yeah. And so with these three things, I brought this up to Josh and Benny. Benny was a resident at that time, and I asked him, hey, what's a project that we can work on together? And we came across a lot of ideas, especially during this time. Everyone's like doing the split screen thing, the Brady Bunch style, kind of like the Zoom call. And but at that time, everyone was doing the song "The Blessing," and we were like, we could do that, but what could create more of an impact at that time? And Josh, who came up with the suggestion of doing the song "King of Kings," he's been suggesting that song for like over a year. But we finally listened to his suggestion at this time. So Josh, like, can we do this song? And I was like, one of our desires as a church is to sing in multiple languages. So I was like, hey, I propose a challenge of singing in different languages, or translating in different languages, I should say. So with those three things, being inclusive with everyone, with our worship team, especially like including everyone, right? Like being able to bring about a sense of being a part of something greater, especially during this time. People feel like they can get lost in the mix, or they can get lost in whatever else is going on. So my job as a worship pastor is to bring all these people together. So as in this video, you would see it's like people, all types of singers, different musicians, all types of age groups, demographics coming together. The second thing was unity. A deeper sense of unity, not only with our worship team, but pastor has this core value, and he believes in being a multi-generational church, multicultural church, and also being a multilingual church. And he has other values that he holds on to, but these three things were what drove us to make this project really good. Like I said earlier, bringing a multi-generational church, seeing everyone participating in this video, seeing like the younger guys who play music, and also some of us that's veterans, the guys that have been doing this for a long time, playing in the same video has been so cool. Then also multicultural, right? We have Josh, who's from Oman, all the way from there, Ebby, Yohan, and Benny, who's from India, and they got to collaborate with people in their respective areas, and to see all of us kind of bringing all of our ideas and vision and our creativity and seeing that come together has been such a cultural impact, you know, and that was so cool to do. Then the last thing is multilingual, and as you guys know, through this project, we got to translate in 4 languages, which is so cool because that's our heart, you know, our church. That's something we believe in, and that's something that we want to continue to do as time progresses. So with that being said, and also stretching ourselves with our creativity, you know, me and Josh always believe about pushing ourselves. We want to always do something that's new and fresh, and also to bring this project to become something that our church can sing for generations to come, you know, or we can watch this video 2, 3, 4 years down the line and be proud of it. So yeah.
Yeah. I remember when Pastor Reuben brought this up, and I remember being in the car with Josh when he was talking to me about it, and then he started talking about like all of our worship leaders. Like he brought up when I remember coming to the church when Josh Andrews was just leading worship. It was and I was like, wow, he was thinking about bringing Josh and Yohan and Dalton and Abeyson and Benny, and I was like, wow, that's a lot of amazing people to bring together on a video. I mean, the video might blow up, you know, because of all the coolness and talent and love for God. So, and anyways, Josh had some ideas too, and I just remember thinking like, you know, why did you want to bring all our friends together, Josh? And what was it behind it for you when you were thinking of the project?
Yeah, I think it was just a cool concept for me because I've played and I've led worship with all of these guys at certain points in the church's life that have really impacted where we are today. And I think, like Pastor Reuben was saying, pastors thought of being multi-generational and multilingual is something that each of these guys brought an aspect of and helped us learn what that meant to be at church. Starting with Josh, where he was the first one to kind of do that at our church, uh, creating that like I guess cohesiveness between Malayalam and English songs. He would like go straight from one into another, or translate it, or find translations that other people did, and like find a way to bridge that gap where it was cool for us to do those kind of songs. We as a church always loved playing Malayalam songs, but it was always a difference between a Malayalam set and an English set. And then seeing where Josh kind of bridged that gap, he was the first one to do it, to where it was like everything is just one set and everything was just cohesive, was where we had that idea birth, and that birth that passion and pastor as well, because he saw how that impacted the youth to the older people. Like the older people loved that the younger people were singing Indian songs like Malayalam or Hindi or whatever it may be, and now Tamil even, to where and it used to be only the kids would sing the English and the adults would sing the whatever language we're singing, Malayalam or Hindi. So that was really cool, and also just like getting to do this again with them, right? Just to catch up and like hang out. Like obviously it's fun to just do projects like this with people that you love, because that's what makes it fun. Doing it by yourself kind of sucks. So that was the main thing because when Pastor Reuben said, "Hey, make it multi-generational, lingual," the first people that came to my mind are the guys that kind of made that possible at church. With like Yohan, once Josh left, Yohan kind of took that with the Malayalam side. Ebby led that with the Hindi side, and then Dalton did that with the Hindi side, and then Benny even did it with the Tamil side, which we never really did. We would do like a Tamil song like once every couple years, and now it's like at least once every other week we're doing like a Tamil song, which is awesome to see, because Tamil in our community, Tamil is probably the least amount of people that we have, but we do Tamil songs more than anything else right now. And it's so cool to see that that Benny brought that passion, and we all loved it. Like, I don't know what it was. So seeing how each person brought a different aspect of it to the church, and how we all like just it grew in us. And so that was the main reason why I wanted to get all these guys involved. And then they're just good at what they do, of making it bilingual and making it multi-generational, and getting people from every generation in our church involved. from every team, whether they sang Malayalam, Hindi, or English, whatever it may be. We've all learned to kind of take part in our culture and be a part of what our mother tongue is.
Yeah, let's talk a little bit about that culture. So Josh Andrews, what was it like introducing Malayalam and English sets together in those early days at Metro? What were people's reactions to you for doing that, and what was it like for you?
I think a lot of the things that I wanted to say, Josh said it out, like what was happening at that time. And I think I made a lot of enemies at first because I'm like, I'm in the middle of everything. Like the kids are like, why are you singing Malayalam songs? And the older guys are like, why are you mixing? Like it's like everybody lost their personal space at first. And it was a challenge. Like I think it comes from me from where I was growing up. I think we were doing that over here, kind of similar. So it was a little easier for me to do it. But it was, I don't think it's about doing it. I think it was about navigating people more than what we were doing. And looking back, I think that was an amazing season. You grow a lot, you learn a lot, and now seeing where it is at right now, where everybody sings, you don't see it as languages, you see it as worship, which is the whole bigger picture. It's not about English, Malayalam, Hindi, Tamil. It's about, man, we are worshiping God, and we are not limited by language, space. We're not limited by anything or generation or anything. We're doing it together, and which is again an expression of what heaven would look like one day. So I think looking right now, I join in, I watch it Sunday later on in the day, and I'm like, I enjoy worshiping with y'all, and it's beautiful seeing all the different people, and as I think Reuben or Linson, somebody said, everybody brought a different aspect, and it looks beautiful. It looks very colorful right now. So it was a journey, but it was fun.
Yeah, thank you, Josh, for starting us on that journey. I remember that was one of the few things that attracted me early on to the church. I just remember a few songs that you would sing, and I just remember looking at my wife like, wow, I've never heard anybody do that before. So it was really attractive, you know. What's up, Benny? Thanks for joining us. I'm glad you're here.
Yeah, I'm finally back. Good to join you guys.
Yeah. Yohan, same question, bro. You did the same thing. Like, and one thing that you did, you also did that in our life groups too. And I noticed a lot of American-born Indians, right? We were learning to sing Malayalam songs with you, and you made it accessible to us. So, what did you see happening in our church, and what made you want to do that?
So, um, so basically, like our church has a wide spectrum of age groups, right? So we have people like when we have our English set or our second set, which is predominantly English songs, you know, we do have our younger generation getting more into it versus, you know, our first worship set that we have is mostly in Malayalam, where we have our older generations kind of enjoying it and then getting into that groove of worshiping, right? So um, trying to find the balance was critical, I feel. And then initially when we started off when we started singing English songs during our second set, you know, we could see that whole difference and bringing you know, what do I say, a Western touch into, or a modern touch into the music too, kind of made a big difference. Even, you know, the thing is, even the musicians like that we play with, they enjoy the kind of music and how we, you know, modify it, you know, to cater to the crowd, whether or not it's people who enjoy English or Malayalam, right? So that was my experience, and I think it's all about finding the you know, the right balance, and you know, catering to the crowd where, you know, they can freely worship God. So that was my experience.
Yeah, I love that you did that. You made the music, like, I don't know how you did, like you sang a song I remember growing up that was in Malayalam, but you like brought it to like our current moment, like with the music and all of that. And I don't know, I love your heart. You made it accessible. Like I honestly, I still don't understand Malayalam, but when we sing that song, like my heart melts, you know, when you lead it in Malayalam and you bring it into that contemporary feel. I mean, it's beautiful. And Dalton did that. Dalton made our music a lot of fun and introduced Hindi into the mix too. And you also started translating songs. Yohan, you did that too. You were like helping us go from English into Malayalam into Hindi, but sometimes it would be the same song. So Dalton, what was it like for you when you were starting to lead worship at our church?
Yeah, I think it goes back to probably 10 years ago when I moved from India to the States for my college. And I didn't do music much back before then, but then through my 2 years of college, it was actually some of these amazing worship songs that guided me, during my lonely times and staying away from family and friends, and even as a Christian to grow as a Christian, right? I was probably more legalistic before and raised up in a way that you got to do certain things right for God to love you, until I really started to mess up myself and I wanted more of God's grace. And that was the real time that I should say I was born again then, and I started my journey with the Lord, knowing that I needed Christ every single day of my life, right? So these songs that I translated back in the days, How He Loves, This Is Amazing Grace, One Thing Remains, those songs were some of these amazing songs that's transformed my life. I still remember the day, I think it was my third or fourth week in the United States, not even knowing anybody. I was all by myself in my apartment room, and I just wanted to go back to India. I was like feeling homesick, and How He Loves starts playing in the radio, and I felt an amazing presence of God all around that room. In my life, I saw all my life flash before my eyes, just all the past times that God has saved me, why He's preserved me. And that was really a life-changing moment. And something in my heart was pressing me to translate these songs to the masses in India. And I did not speak Hindi. I was raised all my life in Kerala. I did not understand Hindi very well, but I took that as a project. I started off with Google Translate, and then I played to somebody who knew Hindi and is like, this is terrible. And after 2 years of working on those 8 songs, I kind of quit. And then a pastor from Mumbai came over, and he really, I think what attracted him to my project was the heart behind it. And he said he'll help me translate it and finish the project. And Benny was there. He had helped me a lot during that times, working with the music stuff and even with the launch. So fast forward, I put a few songs out there, and that was initial journey with worship music and leading God's people into worship. And I played at different places around US as well with these translated songs, combining with them with the original English songs. Everywhere I go, I get a mixed response, right? Because some people just don't get Hindi, or maybe why are you mixing it with another language song? But I remember the first time I was invited to lead worship for Metro's worship retreat, I just felt home singing these songs there. The songs were well accepted, and I think people were singing along. And that's the first time I really heard a large congregation singing along Malayalam songs, Hindi songs, and English songs all together. It just felt right at home. And that experience even led me to start attending Metro and seeing all these different worship leaders. I think at that time, Yohan was there doing Malayalam and English together. And Reuben was coaching the younger generation why the other songs are very important, no matter what language it is. And in the last 3 years, it's such an amazing journey to see all the different generations and all of us who have been raised in different parts of India, US, around the world to come together and join the cause to glorify God. And that's the future, right? Every tribe, every tongue, every nation will one day glorify God in amazing ways. So it's just been an honor to be part of this wonderful team and even part of the song.
I think one thing that most of these guys would say so far is, I don't know about Benny, maybe because he came as a resident at the very end, but at the very beginning for all of these guys, one thing that I'm hearing is that they all struggled with it because it was hard. Like, I don't know if it was very accepting. I know I've talked about it with Josh and Yohan a lot. Dalton, I guess he came for a retreat and liked it. So maybe we weren't as mean to him, but we weren't as accepting at first of it. And it became something that we loved because they didn't stop, even though it was hard at first. Like they said, it was like, people would be like, why are you mixing these songs? Why are you doing this? Like, just sing an English song. If you're going to sing Because He Lives, just sing it in the regular version. Don't do Tan Varga. Like, we would give them crap for it at the beginning, but it became something that was like Pastor Linson, you said it, to like where it melts your heart, even if you didn't know what you were singing, for some of the younger generation. Me understanding my I liked it from the beginning, but then there would be people that didn't like it at all because they'll just be like, I don't know what's going on. It's just like, it's gibberish to me for some of the kids. So it was cool seeing them persevere through that too, and kind of push this new agenda, making songs sound cool, like with what Dalton was doing with like basically all our top worship songs suddenly became Hindi and like all these other songs that literally every song he named were like our go-to songs every Sunday.
And just wanted to add something in that. I think one of the things that started changing it for people was, I think for the parents, when they saw their kids starting to sing Malayalam, that changed it up a lot. And when the kids saw their parents singing English, I think seeing that happen after a period of time, people are like, okay, wait, this actually works. It's actually working, where we're coming together into a different place. So I think that's something that I saw towards the time there.
Yeah. It also goes back to the testimony of the leadership of Metro Church, right? So when I put out that first translated album, I thought no one would ever gonna buy it. So when I came to Metro's retreat, it's the first time Pastor Satish took all the CDs, and he probably sold 70 of them right then, like in 2 hours. I'm like, oh yeah, this is possible. So I think it's also the leadership that it plays a big role in bringing that culture and binding the gap and bridging the gap.
Yeah, I mean, somewhere deep in the heart of all this, it's not like, I like what, you guys are saying, Josh said it too. It's not really language, it's hospitality. Like, we're trying to bring people to the table and to worship God. And if language is a barrier, then let's switch it up so everyone has a way in, And one thing that we've been watching with Abeyson, because Abeyson has been both here and then in India and then back here and then back in India, and like he's kind of been in both of those worlds, and through him we've met some really amazing people, and you've been watching the worship culture there and the worship culture here, and you've kind of seen how in a lot of ways it's not even language or even nation, right? It's like we're coming together to worship. What's been your thoughts on all this as you've been going back and forth?
I guess like kind of rewinding back to what Josh said, right? I was one of those people who like, like I went on this journey of like, I was in India, but never really liked any of the Indian Christian stuff. So when I came to America, I'm like, oh, finally, no more of that. And then there's more of that. I'm like, do we really need it? I was one of those guys, but then I guess like once again, the way it was presented to us was not something that we connected with. And I think like Josh and Yohan did like a great job of presenting something that was already there, but in a way that we would understand it better. And even then, like, it was obviously like Josh Andrews said, right? In the beginning, it was always like that struggle, like, do we really want to do this? Is that a journey? But then like me coming to India or just discovering a side of music and like, so one of the things that I love about what's happening in India right now, especially with the worship music scene, is there's always been this authentic expression of worship, but the excellence factor or the sound that it brought out or the production value, like that was so bad, where the authenticity was just like, it's there, but we don't want to listen to it because it's not something that we would actually want to connect. And what's happening right now, at least in my realm of people that I know, is the authenticity and the excellence are like are brought together so well, where you can definitely actually want to listen to those songs, and still be experienced by that. So definitely, like, because I know when I was back in Dallas, I didn't know much of the technical production side, so I never really leaned much on it. I was just like, with guys, let's just have a heart of worship, let's just do whatever. But then coming to India, I'm like, yo, like, this makes such a big difference, you know? And like, I can see how both go hand in hand. It's not one or the other, it's both. And that's what makes the whole difference. That's what makes, you know, like, both generations or whoever it is, like language barriers, whatever it is, both of them come because they both can. It's both, you know. It's not you either have that or you either have this, but you have both here. So that's what I've been seeing, especially in India, the growth of excellence and authenticity together. And and once again, like, I love these translated versions, but what I'm seeing right now is the Indian church, man, like, they want to, because for all these years they've been singing songs from the West, like, you know, Hillsong or Bethel or whatever it is. Like, we've been singing those songs, and I've been seeing this desire to write heart songs from the nation itself, that maybe one day, like, you know, for the longest time it was the West that was evangelizing or sending missionaries, per se, to the East. And now, like, the heart of the worship leaders and stuff for these songs to bless the nations is like beyond, yeah, what I would have ever thought of. So
Yeah, I mean, I agree. There is a sound in India that God has placed there. And it is a sound that we're starting to see, like, not copy, but like be its own original sound. And like hearing those songs are like blessing, like even people like me, American born Indians, we're hearing that, and it's like connecting us more deeply with our faith, because it's something about our where we're from and our faith all coming together, you know. And I mean, that's just amazing. And I mean, and the world is getting smaller, you know, technology is bringing us together, and who knows what God's going to do with all of us together and the sound that will be created, not just for our people, but for the nations, right? And so, you know, anyway, so I talked to Benny. Benny showed up, you know, at our church, and, you know, started helping us. And like Josh was saying, brought the Tamil mix, the musical excellence. I mean, he was whipping us into shape. I mean, it was, and it was awesome. Some of our younger musicians started playing stuff that I could not believe they could play. And you really helped us, like, also keep that torch of mixing languages. So what was it like for you, and why do you feel like this kind of worship is important this season?
Yeah, that's great. Thanks, Pastor Linson. One more thing, shout out, you guys killed it. Watch night service, Transformation Church. Yes, Lord, man, I was so proud watching that. I texted everyone on the team. I was like, yo, I love this. So huge props to that. And I can relate to what Josh was saying, because when I walked in, everybody was in it. Everyone was like, yo, Tamil, yo, Malayalam, Hindi, we want it. So I walked in, I guess, in like a soil that was already, the work had already been done. So everything that you guys explained, I can see how I was reaping the benefits of it. So when I walked in, I was able to just bring whatever I had, what God has placed in my life, what God has taught me in my time in the US when I was at Bible college, and my experiences with worship, leading, and just music and everything. When I walked into Metro, I already know that the rich culture of worship that they already carried. So for me, it was just about just getting on board and helping people almost realize what they're capable of, and just bringing people together in just worship. And talking about just all these different languages coming together in worship, I think that it is very important. Mainly because we often tend to reserve our deepest worship for our favorite songs a lot of times. And I've done that. Our most devoted, most deep times of worship is reserved to this one song. I'm like, I can't worship God any deeper than I do in Waymaker or Champion right now. Or just reserved to some songs that just hit home with us, right? There was this one experience that that God showed me in my life where my whole idea of worship changed. Where it was one day I was supposed to play in the morning, and then I was supposed to play another worship set in the evening. So in the morning, I'm playing for 6 people, right, in a church. They were expecting 50 to 100. 6 people show up. I'm leading worship. God moved. It was great. We had fun time. Not the best music that I've played. Not the best sound system. And later that day, no joke, I had to play in front of 60,000 people. And so those were within an 18-hour period, right? So, and I'm seeing, and this was great worship there. God moved, great sound, great music. We were tight. We sounded great. So that got me thinking of how much our true worship and true devotion does not depend on the language, does not depend on the amount of people, the music, the sound. Although a lot of things, like Abeyson was saying, they go hand in hand and they do help us combine a lot of things that make the experiences a lot better. So in understanding that, my heart for, even when I came to Metro, and my heart coming back to India and teaching worship and bringing that culture into my church is my vision was for us to get to this place as a church where we can worship to any song. We can worship God with all our heart to any song, in any language, in any genre of music. A lot of times we tend to unplug ourselves from worship when we don't relate to a certain genre. So I think the deepest worship and the most genuine and authentic sound, like Abby was talking about, comes from when you realize that God's power and his sovereign nature and the fact that he's worthy of all our praise, it just goes past the words that we are saying, the melody that we sing, and the music that we are playing. And I think the fact that culture is what we are all striving to create, even at Metro, and that's what I've seen. So when I jumped in, it was so easy. And I've heard a lot of you guys also talk about how much you like the Tamil songs and everything. I love Malayalam songs. I don't know what you guys are talking about. So I love all these Malayalam songs, and I'm introducing Malayalam songs in my church here in Chennai, so they love it. So just that aspect of all these languages and differences coming together in worship, I think is powerful, because that kind of points us back to the essence of what worship is, to understand that God is worthy of everything that we have, regardless of the melody, the lyrics, and the language that we're singing in. So that's something that stood out to me.
Benny, I want to say Tamil songs, I think, was just a breath of fresh air for us, because we sing Malayalam songs, we sing Hindi songs. So I think Tamil is just something new that was like, oh, wow, this is, and Tamil is a lot closer to Malayalam than Hindi is. So I think it was like something very similar, but it was new, and it was like new songs that we've never heard before, new melodies. So that was very cool for us. But I think one thing that just like struck out to me was, I think for younger generations, what's cool is when we translate these songs, like especially King of Kings, it's a song that everyone knows. Like, you know the meaning behind the song because it was in English first. It was a language that you know. And then once you translate it, it doesn't matter because what you're singing, you already know what the song means. But when it's a song that's written in Malayalam, most of these kids, they don't understand Malayalam at all, to where they don't know what the song even means. They don't know what's behind the meaning behind the song. They don't know anything. So then it gets harder for them to connect to that. But then with these songs, when you guys are translating it, they're like, wow, I already connected to this song. This song was already reaching out to me. Like Dalton, when you did like This Amazing Grace, or all those songs, those are songs that they already connected to, and they had something that was like already ministering to them with that song. And then when you translate it, it's like, oh, that's a translation. Like, I already know what they had a connection to that song in order for them to know it. But when it's a song that's initially wrote in Malayalam or Hindi or Tamil, I think it's harder for them to get a connection to that. But the older generation is great because they understand both English, for the most part, English and their whatever their language is. And some people, most of our generation, they understand all three of the languages that we said. They understand Hindi, Malayalam, and Tamil to a certain extent. Whereas if it was a first or second generation, like a kid here, they don't understand any of those three. So I think the older generation had that privilege of being able to understand, for the most part, all the languages. But then as the younger generation, knowing only one language really and not being bilingual, it really helped for them to hear translations of songs like this King of Kings or like any of the other songs that we've done, because they have a connection to it. They know what it means. They know what we're singing, instead of just singing blindly and just worshiping God off of that. But this now actually has a meaning and a resonance in their heart for what they're singing.
Yeah, totally. I mean, like I was saying before, you know, I don't even understand some of what we're singing, but it melts my heart. And then my kids, you know, who are like, you know, 6 and 10, you know, they are hearing Malayalam songs and Hindi songs and Tamil songs, and like those are some of their favorite songs in church, you know. And there's just something about making worship accessible, but then also bringing people closer to who they are, like who God made them to be. Like we're not made to be just whitewashed Christians. Like just take Western Christianity and spread it around the world, right? I think there's something about our indigenous worship that we're passing on to generations and generations, so that we can kind of hold on to who we are, right? So well, I kind of want to geek out a little bit and get behind the scenes some more on the technical side. So I want to talk a little bit about video, audio, and even translation work that you guys did. So first off, maybe Josh, like when you started imagining this project, I mean, I know it sounded fun. You were like really excited, but then when all the audio stems started coming in and you were loading them in the Pro Tools and stuff, yeah, you didn't look like you were having fun then, bro. So why don't you talk to us about your challenges, what you learned? Talk to us about the audio side of King of Kings. What happened for you?
Yeah, definitely the audio side was a fun project to have, especially when you have so many different sessions from so many different people coming in from whatever platform they may be using. From like, you know, these guys overseas, some of them are Logic guys, some people are Ableton or Pro Tools or whatever. I mean, I'm probably the only Pro Tools guy in here, but
some use iPhone. I'm just kidding.
Yeah, GarageBand, just voice memos.
Voice memos.
So getting all that and getting it together was fun. I think for me, Benny, you can say this too, because Benny and me started off on this project together before Pastor Reuben came in. Me and Benny, when we were like even like producing the song and like seeing where we wanted to go with this, like sound wise, and like how we wanted it to sound, what kind of feel do we want. One thing that stuck out to us was like we were just listening to it, and there was this little like riff that stuck out to me in the bridge, I think, Benny, right? And it sounded very like Indian riff, like it had that tone, like melody that was going off of that, and we loved that melody, and that's what we used for all our interludes and like our intro and stuff. And we were riffing off of that, and me and Benny just found that thing, and then we started building off of that. Benny started like having little ideas, and then we try to do a little gospel thing at the end with the hits. Benny, you can chime in at any time.
Yes. That lead line that Josh found was a treasure, because it was just buried somewhere. If you just hear the song in general, you won't hear it. It was like electric guitar number 6 or something like that. It was just like buried somewhere. I was like, how is this like the actual Hillsong song? Because it sounded Indian. So we were like, all right, we're definitely using this. And then from that,
we got.
Oh, we lost you.
Vocal arrangement to it. We'll have someone sing it, and then that would be a lot better and sound more Indian. So, and we tried to add different instruments that would make it sound more ethnic from what we are bringing. So Josh had some ideas too from there.
Yeah, I think if you go back to our like original rough draft, you'll hear Benny do a song or something, and you'll hear me play tabla on a freaking guitar case. So
which did not sound bad.
Yeah, Benny made so much fun of me. He gave me so much crap, and then he heard it, and he's like, "Whoa, that actually sounds like a tabla." And I was like, "Yeah."
Now, Josh was like, "Hey, I'm gonna flip this acoustic guitar upside down, and I'll play a tabla." I was like, "All right, Josh, sure." And then when he played it back, I was like, "Hold up, what? Okay, now we're talking." So it was actually really good. So we were onto something at that point.
Yeah, so I think it was just fun creating something, like creating the song with Benny, and then seeing where it would go. And then once Benny left, it became a little harder for us to work together, and that's where Pastor Reuben jumped in and really took over a brunt of the project, because Benny was busy coming back home with his church and everything. So Pastor Reuben took over, and it was fun working with Pastor Reuben to where now it was like, hey, I have these ideas. This is what I want it to be like. And he would just kind of do it. And it was like, hey, there's this like flute thing here, or there's this here. I want to do like stacks of these here. And seeing Pastor Reuben kind of just like basically do what was on my mind and send it back to me. And then we had guys from everywhere help us. We had our guys at church, guys from overseas with these guys that were helping us send in tracks and send in different things, little snippets here and there that helped us make what King of Kings is as a whole. So I think that was fun. Obviously it was daunting. It was daunting in just like mixing it with so many things. I crashed my Pro Tools like session like a million times with having like it maxed out on 128 tracks and everything, plugins, everything, whatever it may be. So it was fun. It was definitely a project that I will remember. It was good. It was good to just hear everyone's voices again too. That's something that me being a drummer and playing with all these guys so many times, I've missed hearing. Like I haven't heard Josh Andrews sing in forever at church in like our setting. Like watching his church is totally different than seeing him sing with us. So hearing him sing, or Yohan or Ebby, Dalton, all these guys, Benny sing, it was just great to have like hear them, let alone hear all our guys that I see for the most part on the weekend and weekly basis. So it was just great to see their faces on the videos that they were sending in and being like, hey, is this okay? And there was like always little things like I'll share, like I don't know if Yohan wants me to share, but Yohan sent us a video and there was a fly that was like zooming across his face, like here and there. And he's like, dude, can you edit it out? I was like, how am I supposed to edit out a fly? And I was like, I'm just going to give it to Pastor Reuben and see what happens. I didn't say a word to Pastor Reuben. I just gave it to him and he'd never even noticed. So I guess the fly wasn't that big a deal. But little things like that. It was just fun having conversations with these guys again, like working with these guys and doing things. So I think that was the biggest part for me, just doing an Indian song, which I usually don't mix. Like when I'm mixing at work or whatever it may be, it's always Western stuff. So trying to think, like switch mentally, like, oh, this has got to sound like an Eastern, like an Indian sound, was very difficult for me. And that's where Benny was very clutch, because he had that. And him teaching me that was also a fun way of looking at it.
Yeah, and you guys like brought in like singers from like all over our church and different people that had the ability to sing in different languages, and that was cool. And then Pastor Reuben, you had to bring in all the video pieces too, so everyone's videos were different. I remember you doing like all this magic on Final Cut to make the videos look the same, and I was like, wow, it was crazy. So what was it like for you on the video side, production side?
Yeah, so technically, for those that are interested, the way that I approached it was, as you know, it's very hard to get everyone to send in their video, especially when we have a deadline. So my goal was to get Josh all the stems for audio and to record video at the same time. So what I would do is I would schedule time slots for people. So we had a worship group, me, and I would say, hey, I'm going to be at church Tuesday, Friday, and Saturday of these days. And between these times, schedule an hour time slot with me so you can come in, record. So my setup was like the most like craziest setup you'll ever see. We had like an audio interface on one side, one corner with like a condenser mic. So people would come in, record their instrument or vocals on this side. And right after we're done tracking their vocals and audio, they'll come, and then there's like 3 soft boxes. Abby, there's 3 soft boxes that are capturing their video with like a black draping, because that's like the style that we were trying to go for. And so, yeah, it's very interesting the way the process, because I'm always about efficiency, just knocking it out, getting it done. I just felt bad for Josh because after every session, I would send him like over like 20 or 30 stacks of like vocals and instruments, and he's like probably so overwhelmed of like he doesn't even know what to do with this. But it was very efficient for me to get audio and video at the same time. So once I got all that stuff, organizing was a big deal for me, because I had to make sure I had everyone's audio, everyone's video, making sure I included everybody. The fun part was experimenting, because some people would do harmonies on certain parts, and then I would say, hey, let's try this, let's do this. Even musically, we'll try different things. So experimenting was a fun part. For the creative side of the video, originally my idea was to just do black and white, and when the song goes into "And the Church of Christ was born," everyone's video would like kind of light up. You would see color popping up all over the place. But then when I got into the workflow of, I use Final Cut. Some people are Premiere guys, but I do Final Cut just because it's Apple. If you're an Apple person, it's just more friendlier to you. But once I started working on the project, I realized, man, I'm getting overwhelmed how many videos I have in here. I think I had over, man, like 30 or 40 videos. And those of you that edit videos know that just takes up so much CPU on your computer, so much memory. I had to get like 3 or 4 SD cards, plug them to the side, and run that simultaneously so I can have an efficient workflow. So it was hard matching up all the videos, but I found like this plugin for Final Cut that lets you do like this split screen, kind of like what we're doing right now through Zoom. So that made the process a little bit faster. So like if I'm taking Benny's video and I have Ebeyson's video and then Josh's video, I can create different configurations of boxes. And those guys would kind of fall into place during their parts. So my job was to make sure every single person was lined up to their part. So whenever Benny came in, I would cut his part, or Josh, so I would do that. That was the first process of getting the timelines correct. And then the process that kind of took the longest time was the creative aspect of it, of how the video will flow. That took some time. And then also color grading, which also took a few seconds, because if you want the video to really stand out, especially for all the video creators and content creators out there, if you want all your videos to look cohesive and just look very nice aesthetically, trying to match all your videos, even though like all these guys send in different videos from all over the place, I try to match up like skin tones and like match up how like the black, because black can look different in everyone's video, so I try to get the color black kind of similar, so every cut looks somewhat the same for every video. So it was a very, very tedious project. I did learn a lot, and in the end of it, as you see it coming together, that's what makes a project fun, because I would start off in the first half and Malayalam would be done, and I'm like, man, I'm pretty proud of this section, and then I'll see Hindi get done, and then Tamil section will get done, and then the funnest part was seeing everybody sing for the last part, which is English, and then obviously getting Pastor to sing on the last part. Recording him was a lot of fun. So yeah, that's my process.
I think for me also, like what was really difficult, I think Reuben can say this too, was doing all this virtually for the most part, like not being able to see people and give your ideas, like especially for musicians, not being able to like give them an idea of what you're trying to do without being able to be with them. That was very hard to like, hey, I want you to play this or play this because this is how it's going to all fit in, and they can't really see how it's going to be fitting in when you can't even meet with them. Like you're literally just sending them a track and hoping that they do what you wanted them to do without being there or guiding them. Like so like, especially with these guys overseas, like we would send them something and we would give them like a week or two to get something back to us. And we wouldn't have any conversation in between that, like while they're recording. So it was just like being like, I hope these guys got a glimpse of like what we were trying to do without really hearing it or seeing it or being able to talk about it that much. So that was also a challenge for us. And then bringing, like Reuben said, bringing Pastor in at the end, we were trying to figure out a way to close the video. And like, we're like, how do we close the video? Do we just like do one person, solo one person? I was like, oh man, we should definitely get Pastor to close it out. I feel like that would be like the big epic thing, because no one will ever see or imagine Pastor singing us out of a video or singing at all. So that was just like, hey, we should do this. And Reuben's like, yeah, let's do it. And then we asked Pastor and had to convince him a little bit to to come and join us. But he did it, and he was amazing at it. And it was just fun to see. That's also where the multi-generational, just like creating that gap between all of us, that no matter, I mean, I think the youngest guy in there was probably like, what, 14, 15, Reuben, I think. And then like from the oldest person, like that age difference between everyone is so willing and just a part of it, and they felt like they were like, everyone poured in so much into it. So it was just fun. Like they didn't care who was there, like who was doing what. It was just like everyone working on it together, and to see that was amazing too.
Yeah, quickly, Josh, I was going to add too, for those of you guys that are wanting to create a video like this, organization is key.
Yeah.
I would say to communicate effectively really well. So one way that me and Josh did it ahead of time was we created the video treatment for it ahead of time. So there's a video online that's on there, but I'm pretty sure you'll never find this. But I took multiple videos of Josh and created like these layers just to kind of show people how we wanted the video to look like. So creating a video treatment for it, what colors, aesthetic, how do you even record during this time, like how you want the video to look. And then the second thing for organization is creating folders. Google Drive is like your best friend, because especially when we're getting audio and stuff from different people, we want to make sure that we can find where to find things, right? So like I remember Josh and Benny early on, they created like this full document of all the translations and where we wanted the translation to go, who we wanted to sing in these parts. And so that made our workflow so much easier because we could always reference a hard copy of what we edited or what we did. So I can always reference that, look back and be like, hey, this is what we're trying to achieve and what we're trying to go for. So for all you guys out there that are trying to be video creators and content creators, organization is your best friend. So make sure you get good at that.
Mm-hmm. I think organization and communication, I think making sure, like I said, like getting everyone to know what the heart behind the project was. And these guys were amazing at that. And just being like, Pastor Linson, I know we're going to be talking about this, but like them translating and knowing why we were doing what we were doing. They caught the essence of it right away. And they were on board from the beginning. Like when we brought it up, we had this conversation. We started this conversation back in the summer of 2020. So it was like, I think it was like June or July. And we had a bunch of projects coming up. We had Homestead, we had King of Kings, we had, we're working on like EPs and stuff for this year. So we had a bunch of things that we were doing and writing original content for creating all the Homestead videos. And me and Benny being able to lead this, it was just like a project where we can get everyone in and all these guys translating it and getting like the true, going back and forth between like, hey, we don't like the enunciation of this word, we don't like this, and like everyone kind of just being so willing to work together and do it. And it was just awesome in that aspect. I think organization, like Pastor Reuben said, is key. And I wish we did some things better in that. There's a lot of things that I would look back on and be like, oh, next time we do this, we'll definitely like not make this same mistake again. And those are just things that you learn. I mean, this was our first time doing a project like this, especially translating and getting so many people involved in it. So
yeah, I mean, speaking of translations, like for the rest of you guys, translating an English song and the kind of essence of it into an Indian language without it like being cheesy, you know what I mean? Like, there's some cheesy translations out there, and then there could be even like heretical ones where you're like, that's actually not in the Bible, what you just said. And then like the musicality of it, right? Because, like I remember when Josh and Yohan, where you guys were doing the Malayalam version, you're like, I can't actually fit that. Like you can't actually fit the translation into the music or into the bars, and then I know Abeyson, you were like maybe mixing in Hindi with, I think with other like maybe Urdu or something like that. You were coming up with different ideas. So talk to us, all of you guys, about what was translation like for you all, and what was that process like?
Very, very quickly, I found out how wordy this song was. Once I started thinking thinking of it in terms of translating it in Tamil. And I'm pretty sure Malayalam is the same way. Tamil just has a lot of syllables, a lot of times unnecessary, just too many syllables in a single word. So praise the Father, it's like 4 syllables, and I'm having way too many to fit it in there. So I gave Josh like 4 courses. I'm like, hey, tell me what sounds good, because I was able to put the same message into like 4 types of choruses, and I was like, nah, this one sounds like a chant, and then I was like, nah, this one sounds like it's not Christian. This one sounds just not in place. So, and then I had to like put my mind to something. And honestly, just referring to even Malayalam translations that Yohan and Josh did helped me in Tamil, because very similar. So that helped. And the verses had a lot of theology in them, which was a really good experience for me to work with. But so I couldn't translate it, but I had to just understand the essence of it and just write a song in Tamil, if that makes sense. So I think that was a lot easier approach, instead of translating it line by line, to just understand the theology, the meaning behind what's been conveyed through the verse, and just write a song in Tamil, which was a lot easier than just translating line by line. Shout out to a couple of my friends, Amaze and Prakriti, who helped me translate it in Tamil as well. So they were great, and it was a kind of a long process, but it was great. It was a lot of learning for me, and it was also a lot of fun. So yeah.
I think what Benny said too, this song is basically the story of Jesus, and it just follows Jesus' journey from the beginning to the end. And I remember Benny talking to me about that, like line for line, it doesn't translate, especially like Maya. I know some parts like it doesn't go like perfectly, but you're just telling the story of Jesus. So if you find a way to say that part of the story, like it was cool seeing that.
Even when Benny was translating Tamil, like how he's saying there are so many phrases, I thought that he was singing off beat because of how many words he has to fit in one bar, one section. But man, you pulled it off. It sounded amazing. So
I had to switch to 16 notes, bro. So
no, Reuben was like, is Benny coming in like 2 measures too early? I was like, no, that's the start of the word, because by the end of the word, it lands on the right spot.
You said it lands on the right, but it isn't punch. Yeah.
I think it was throwing me off at the first chorus. I think Malayalam. I was like, wait, I'm losing the timing because Benny was singing on it. I was like, wait, am I coming in late? Am I coming in early? And I had to like shut it off. I had to like, okay, I need to forget Benny for now, and just go for it. But just to mention, I think the story behind translation, very honestly, I think when we made the plan, I completely forgot about it. And then all of a sudden, one day, Yohan sends me a text. He's done the whole thing. I'm like, wait. And he had the whole thing recorded. He had everything. I was like, wait. Okay. So it was like I had to completely start then. And so I took his thing, and 2 of my friends, one is my cousin, Kezia and Caleb. No, Kezia and Nibin. So I sent it to them. They normally help me with translation. So I was like, hey guys, have this thing roughly. And I just simply mentioned it to them. And the next day morning when I wake up, they had sent me the entire thing, their whole version of it. So I took Yohan's, I took this thing. And so I'm pretty bad with setting it up from scratch, but if you give me something, I like modifying it. And so I started playing around. We kept trying it out. And then I think that Zoom call where we talked kind of just came in together. So I think that's the story. I think for me, it was more of just adding on to what is already given.
Yeah, and Abeyson, for you, it was different too, right? Hindi was kind of difficult as well.
Right. So I speak Hindi, but I speak the very like normal everyday language. But then it doesn't sound as polished and nice if you just use that for a song. It just sounds very like earlier you said, it would just sound cheesy. And I'm so grateful that I have some really awesome friends, and one of them being Hemant, who helps me, because he is like born, brought up Hindi, like very poetic, like he learned like Hindi, like he thinks in Hindi, like it's so good. So he help me translate. Like once again, like Benny and all of these guys said, obviously every word to word translation is very impossible because it's a complete different language. Like for example, like English starts one way, and then like whatever it starts with English, we would say it at the end of the sentence. So it was like weird here and there. But he helped me make it as pretty sounding as it can be. So he added in some Urdu words that sound more poetic than the regular everyday Hindi words. Um, I mean, normally people don't use that on an everyday like talking language, but then when it put in song, it makes more sense, and he just beautified the whole process of it. So yeah.
Yeah, I felt like I heard some new words that I normally don't hear in worship songs in the Hindi section. It was really neat.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was so
I mean,
cool.
he after all the Urdu words, he kind of like texted me, "This is what this means. This is what this means," because I didn't know myself either.
That was
I
beautiful.
mean,
Cool.
some people who were trying to sing the translated version in Hindi, they were having a hard time because I guess that's the more colonial verbiage, I guess, or like how they used to say it back in the day. So like some of these words, they're more proper, I guess, right? Abby, would you say? I don't know,
Yeah,
but
yeah.
they were
They're
having
more
a hard
poetic.
time. Yeah, poetic, I guess. Yeah. So some of these words maybe they haven't said or
Yeah,
pronunciated in a long time. So singing it was also a little bit challenged, but it
yeah,
sounds and translated beautifully. Yeah.
right.
Well, we did talk a lot about the behind the scenes there. So, I mean, we're kind of near the end, guys. I'm curious if anyone has any closing thoughts or ideas or something you wanted to say about the project you didn't get a chance to, or maybe like, what do you hope this song will do? Like, what's the big so what? You know, we put a song out there. What are you hoping will happen for, especially our people all over the world? What do you hope to inspire? What are some thoughts you have? And then we'll be done.
I think one of the things for me is so I think the song was coming out on the 31st, and so I think the 25th was a Friday. We've never sung the English here, so I went ahead and taught the English here on the 25th. I'm like, so by the time everything comes out, I was tempted to do the chorus in Malayalam. I'm like, I'm going to wait it out till 31st. And so I taught the English out here so people got familiar. And so I'm like, probably the next time we can do it into different languages. We can blend it in. So I'm waiting for that. Just waiting for it to get out, and then we can slowly move into that.
Oh,
We
that's
did
gonna
the
be
same
so
thing.
cool. Yeah, that's really cool.
Rube introduced it at our church, I think the week before. I don't know if it was the Christmas, like 25th, but I think it was the weekend before that. He introduced the song to our church too, because this song has been out for a long time. And it's like Reuben said, it's something that I've always wanted to do because I love this song. It's just a anthem, I feel like, just proclaiming God's, like, the gospel itself. So it was something that I've always wanted to do, and we introduced it. And so hopefully now that they've heard that, we can incorporate this. I know one thing that we didn't get to do in our version of this was put out the whole Malayalam song or whole Hindi or whole Tamil. And that's something that most of these guys did. They translated the whole song. So we wanted it to be a song that anyone can take anywhere and sing it in their language that they please, or throw in, like we did, medleys of all the languages together. So one Sunday we might just sing it all in Malayalam or all in Hindi or all in Tamil and not even do an English or the other way around. And the ability to do that and just having it, like Pastor Linson we were talking about earlier, you're just reaching out to what people want, like are able to worship in, whatever can help them access that point of being just able to like enter that throne room and just worship. We wanted to make that possible.
Yeah, I mean, a big desire of mine was for more churches to start being able to sing this at their church. Maybe they're able to translate songs for us to sing. I get a lot of inspiration from Hispanic music and Spanish translations because I see the way that they take in songs like Elevation and Bethel, and they sometimes the Spanish versions are sometimes better than the originals because of just the way people sing it or how it's translated. But then what I love about that is me and Benny, we have a friend, when they sing those songs at their church, the whole congregation is singing the song. And that's something that I want to start seeing in our churches and start seeing in our generation, where the whole church participates in the song. And so just like Josh said, these guys taking the songs, maybe they release their version of the song in their language, or if someone is out there and wants to translate into another language, we just want to inspire them.
One of the things that I remember, the very first motives, or like just the idea of us doing this, was just to bring people from church together. And this was a time when church was not gathering, so for people to just see all of us doing this together. And I think even after our circumstances changed, just watching that video, now that I'm not there at Metro, I'm just away at home, just watching this entire video just brought so much joy to me, and just an honor and a blessing for me to have been a part of this, and to have contributed in the little way that I could. And I'm pretty sure it also does bring a sense of unity among even the church. And when it comes to languages, I'm hoping that as the song is being sung in different languages in different places, that they would feel the heart of God, and that unity that we were striving to bring through this. So that's what I believe in this song, that anywhere that this is sung in any language, that it would show the power of God, the love of God, and the power of God's love in their life, and the unity that this represents. So that's what stood out to me from the song. Also, shout out to my buddy Gibson for helping us with that little thing. I really loved it, so I'm thankful for him. So shout out.
I
Well,
think, sorry, Pastor Linson, go ahead.
No, I was about to close the call, so if you got another thought, yeah.
Oh, no, I think people like that, people like Gibson, or people like all these people that they introduced to us, like all the guys that helped translate it, they're the ones that help bring, like when their pieces of the project came, is when like the whole thing came together. Like just us doing it here was one thing, but when, say, Gibson brought in his part, that was like, I know Pastor Linson, you said it, like when those parts came in, it was like we heard rough edits of the song. Like I kept sending them edits of the song like a million times, being like, hey, like this is a new version from today. There's a new version from today. I added this, I added this, I added this. And then like at the end, we're all just like, oh, it's still not there yet. And then these little pieces came in. And when that dropped in, like especially Gibson's part, it was like, oh crap, like that gave me goosebumps. Like that's what Pastor Linson said to us when I sent them the version after I got that. And it was like, oh, this finally felt like it had what it needed. And I think the people that played a part that aren't even a part of this, but then mostly for our church, seeing our family who are now away from Metro, or away from the Dallas States area, like seeing them be a part of our worship and our family of community again was also amazing for just the church in general, like seeing these guys after so long.
Yeah, Pastor Linson, if I could, before you end, I just want to say thank you to all the guys. I got to be a part of all their worship experiences, like all their things that they brought to our church, even starting with Josh. And I could see definitely the transitions. I could definitely see the growth that happened in every process. And to finally kind of be like, wow, like we started here and God has brought us this far. It's been such an amazing journey. And as these guys were talking, as they were talking about their experiences and what they brought to the church, I was just inspired to be like, if they weren't there, would we still have these things, but God did everything for a reason. God had a purpose for everything. His timing was impeccable, because all these guys came at the right time and added the right amount of flavor and experiences that we needed for our church. And I get to be a part of the bigger picture, where I get to take what Benny did, or I got to take what Josh had did, and just kind of put it together, and I tell these guys all the time, I'm glad that I get to be a part of one chapter of their story, and that's the beautiful thing about our church, is that we will always stay connected, and we'll always like want to be a part of each other's journey, and I'm just so blessed. And I'm excited to see what the future has to hold. And I want to encourage like churches that are out there as well. If this is your desire, like let it come in its time, let it come naturally. Because I think for us, it took us about 9-10 years. Like it didn't just happen overnight, you know, where we started playing and singing in different languages, or being creative with our different things, but it came in time. And I believe that if you take time and you pray and you ask the Lord if this is a desire of your heart, then God will bring the right people, and God will bring the things that you need in his timing. So I just want to say thank you to all these guys. Like I'm just inspired, blessed, and honored that I get to just learn from them. You know, all of them influence the way that I worship. They all influence the way that I approach leadership, and even just singing in different languages, as I'm also learning now too. So yeah, love you guys.
Yeah, I think, sorry, Pastor Linson. But I think I just got to shout out the three of our pastors, especially Pastor Sadish, him creating that passion in us to do something like this, right? Like we said from the very beginning, he's the one that kind of taught us these values that make a big difference in our church. Making people like Josh Andrews like first come in. Like when he came in, he was the guy that was just at CFNI, and we keep saying Josh because he was the first one out of everyone here to kind of do this at our church. And he wasn't welcomed at first. Pastor really, like, he was a big advocate of Josh. And Josh knows this, like me and him didn't get along at first at all. Like he thought I hated him. I thought he hated me. Like, and yet here we are, like he's one of my great friends. Like we get to call each other and talk about like production and sound stuff all the time. And it's so much fun. And
all of us at some point thought Josh hated us. So
that's because I probably did.
No. The thing with Josh was he would never give you what you wanted. If you asked for a little sound on the monitors, he would give you the opposite. So it literally came to the point where I had to go Google how to use the X32, the board. And so before Josh would come, and there was a gap where he would not look, I would go turn up the gain. He would show me the faders, but the gain was low. And I'm like, bro. And so once I figured it out, I would just change it up, and I'm like, and he would get so mad.
He found out my tricks. He found out my tricks. And after he left, he told me. I was like, dang, that's what you were doing this whole time.
So Josh is your inspiration.
Because he would never give it.
No, but these guys really made a difference. Sorry, you were saying?
No, I said, I was going to say, Josh, you inspired Josh. Because of Josh not teaching you or not putting your gate up, you learned the X32. And that started your whole production journey right there. Right?
I didn't know what gain was. He only showed me the faders. My fader was up there. Gain was at the lowest. And I'm like, oh, that's what the whole thing is about. But again, it took us for me to leave. I think towards the time we were leaving is when we became very good friends. And even today, I think I learn a lot of sound stuff, everything. Like if I have anybody to consult around the world, I call up Josh. Like, Josh, what do I do? Yeah. So I'm grateful for this. I'm grateful for this journey together with each of y'all. So yeah, thank you.
Yeah, I think these people are the people that made us who we are today, especially our church. Because if you look back at Pastor Linson, you were the one to kind of keep me in check and be like, so are you doing this? It's like, what's going on? And he would ask me every week during our Tuesday meetings, be like, so what's happening with King of Kings? What's happening with King of Kings? What's happening with King of Kings? And I'm like, crap, I should probably work on that. I should probably text everyone sometime. And then Pastor Reuben obviously taking the brunt of it and like, dude, you led it and like made it look and sound as amazing as possible. So I think our three pastors and the vision that you guys bring to us as a church, because if you look at where we were, and then if you look at Watch Night, when we premiered this, every single worship set was so just like cohesive between all the languages and between everything that we as a church stand and believe for, and how we came to like, this is now our ideology and everyone's bought into that. It's not like, oh, that's just an older generation thing or that's just a younger generation thing. It's like everyone's bought into the culture that we are creating. And we saw that within like even the day that we were premiering this video at New Year's and even now. So with our homestead videos, with everything, we've really bought into that culture. And it's because of the three pastors that really brought that, especially Pastor Sadish from the very beginning, teaching that and instilling in that and not letting it like give up, even if we like try to run away from that at times. He kept like just drilling it into our heads that, hey, no, this is where we need to go as a church and leading us down that path.
Well, man, this was awesome. I learned a lot listening to you all. There was stuff that on this project I didn't know happened. While you just here, I just found out on this call. Um, So when I think about this, another part of my heart is not just accessibility for worshiping God, but I really do hope for evangelism. When I think about languages that are sung to heaven, our Indian languages are probably the fewest tongues are singing towards heaven. And so in some ways we're prophetically making a stand to say our people will be there when this is all over and the fully realized kingdom is there. We're going to long that when we say every tribe, tongue, nation, that includes our people, and that we are just but a dress rehearsal for the sound of heaven. So even though right now English is probably sung to heaven more than any other language in the world, may it be so that when people watch the video, someone who doesn't know the Lord hears like the poetic nature of the Hindi and says like, wow, there's a God like that out there, that's the King of Kings, that's willing to come down to save me from my darkness, come from heaven in a cradle in the dirt, like just those kinds of words, that it would draw people into the kingdom. And we may not know it on this side, but when we get on the other side, who knows, there could be a family or even generations there standing there because they had access to the gospel because it was sung in their heart language. So let's pray for that. And churches out there or friends out there that want to learn more, you can always reach out. Instagram DM these guys. Don't Instagram DM me because I don't know anything about this. I'm just here to ask the questions. So if you have questions on asking questions, feel free to DM me. But these are the amazing brothers here. Reach out to them. And we hope the next time around, this call will have some amazing women of God on it. We did not do that intentionally, but we want to see more and more women of God rise up and become excellent worship leaders and to lead us into God's presence in the only way that they know how. So we're looking forward to that. So look out for that for the next time around. So we love you guys. Thank you for joining us. And much love. God bless. Bye. Everyone say bye.